Hello, Lovebugs. I hope you had an amazing weekend. I hope you're going to have an even better week. And I am so happy that you are here with me. Welcome to another episode of Girls Night. I'm your host, Carley Doxtator. And this week has actually been a pretty amazing week for me. So at the time that I'm recording this, it was my brother's birthday. So my brother, my sister's boyfriend, myself, and my sister's baby all went to dinner at La Forêt. I think that's how you pronounce it. It is a French restaurant in Denver off of Broadway. If y'all are in the area, you should definitely go check it out because the vibes were immaculate. It was so cool inside. Probably one of my favorite restaurants that I have ever been to atmosphere-wise. The food was also really interesting. Like, I feel like every single thing that I ate there is something that I have never tried before, right? And maybe that's because I haven't eaten much French food. I'm not really sure what French food is like. Maybe it's standard for French food, but it was really good. All the cocktails were really interesting as well. So if you're looking for something to do, I would definitely recommend going to this place. Again, it's La Forêt, Foret, off of Broadway in Denver. I guess that's enough about me. This week we are talking all about how your biggest pain is actually one of your biggest blessings and leads you to some really profound lessons. And I wanted to talk about this because pain is something that we all experience. It is a universal truth, essentially, is that there is going to be pain somewhere in some form that every single person experiences. And when we're talking about that really deep-seated intense pain that we feel, I think it's fair to say everybody experiences pain like that at least once and probably more than once in their life. All those really big painful things lead to some really great lessons. And I think it's about time that we change the perspective on what pain actually means, because it's not something that we have to actually sit in for a really long time if we're willing to look at it and work with it in a certain way. So let's get into the episode.
Hi everyone! Life can get a little crazy, so let's talk about it. If you're ready to dive deeper, talk about what really matters, and feel a little more empowered, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Carley Doxtator. I'm a life coach, baker, dog mom of two, and you're always there for you gal pal. And I'm so excited to have you join me. So grab your fuzzy socks, put on your comfy pants, and let's have girls' night.
So when we're thinking about pain or something really painful happening to us, whether that's a breakup, maybe you got passed over for a job promotion, maybe you just got passed over for getting hired in the first place. Maybe you were going to go on this really big trip that got canceled last minute, or you're going to make a really big move and that didn't work out. Maybe some of your friendships are falling apart. Maybe people in general are just being really mean to you. Maybe somebody stole from you. Maybe someone you're really close to is sick. Or maybe somebody that you're really close to just passed away. Maybe your pet just passed away. Whatever it is, our first initial reaction, what is natural kind of as humans, is to be like, why the fuck is this happening? Like, why me? But when you can reframe that mindset from why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me? And I know that is so cliche, but probably heard it a million times before. But that reframing really helps, because when you can understand that pain is not a punishment, it's simply an initiation into something greater for your life and for yourself. So all of those little pieces are pointing you to a deeper truth and are pointing you to a direct path that you're actually supposed to take. So I'll give you an example. This was pretty quickly after I graduated college. So this was years ago, but I remember I was applying for this one job. It was a job where they basically arrange travel trips for groups of people, and I was really excited about getting the job. I thought that the interviews were going great, and the last interview that I did, I actually thought that I killed it. And usually I don't feel like I do good on interviews, but this one I walked out, I was like, wow, I did amazing on that interview. Like, I did a great job. And I didn't get it. And during that time, I was kind of going through a breakup too. So I think just the compounding of those two things together kind of really made me feel like, why is everybody against me? Why is the world punishing me? Why is the universe being so unfair to me? But looking back on that job and things that I've heard about it, and really just a feeling that I have within myself, I know that it wasn't going to be the right path for me just because of the structure of how it was set up. It wasn't going to be good for me, especially coming from a job that had been set up like that in the past. I already knew what it was going to be like. So a second point there is that 2020, our hindsight is always 2020, right? When you're stuck in the moment of that unfairness, of that stuckness, of that ickiness, it's way harder to have this shift. But if you can kind of think from future perspective into where you're feeling the pain now, then you can see that 2020 hindsight a lot clearer in the now. I don't know if that made sense. If you act as if you are your future self looking back at this painful moment of that you are experiencing right now, there's going to be a lot of insights that come to you. So maybe you didn't get that job opportunity because you were not going to vibe with the people there. You were not going to align with the culture. Maybe you were going to be assigned to a really horrible boss, and you not getting that job was just the universe protecting you and driving you towards a job that is actually aligned with you and your values and where you're wanting to head. Maybe that relationship down the road, you never know how somebody else's life is truly going to turn out. So maybe that relationship that you were super bent up about, it was actually going to turn into a much more horrible situation down the road that just wasn't good for you. And that's like being really dramatic. Obviously, I'm not saying that like every relationship that fails is because it was going to end up in flames down the road, but if you can think of it like that the universe is protecting you from something that just wasn't aligned for you because there is something better out there for you, then it makes that pain a lot easier to deal with. Now, and when you're experiencing that pain in the moment, obviously, maybe it'll help a little bit, but it's not going to make that pain go all the way away most of the time, but it does help. And the thing about pain is that pain is a really great teacher, and pain kind of forces us to confront our truths about ourselves and about how we're showing up in the world in a way that our comforts never will. And I'm not saying that you should go and deliberately seek pain. That is definitely not what I'm saying. Do not go and deliberately seek pain for yourself. But when we are put into painful situations, it really forces us to kind of like show up, right? And it forces us to be honest about what we're doing and what we're unhappy about and who we're being. So I'm going to use an example of a relationship here to kind of illustrate this point. So imagine that you're in a relationship. It's one of those relationships that just feels comfortable, even if it's not truly fulfilling for you, it's really familiar, right? So you tell yourself it's fine. You kind of convince yourself that if you don't rock the boat, that this is just kind of how relationships are. And maybe there's some people around you that even confirm that like fine is fine, but then maybe down the road, that person betrays you and it's devastating and that pain feels really unbearable. And I think in a situation like that, sometimes the pain is even more unbearable because there was a part of you that knew that you were not meant to be in that relationship in the first place. So I think it stings a little bit more when the other person takes that step first and takes that action first, right? But either way, it's painful. And at first, obviously, you want the pain to stop. Lots of times people turn to things that they probably should not turn to help deal with that pain. But as you sit with it, as you start to ask those deeper questions to yourself, which hint, hint, that's where the true healing from something like a breakup actually comes from, you start to ask those deeper questions. So you start to ask yourself, why did I actually accept this relationship when I knew that I deserved more than this? Why was I okay with being put onto the sidelines of this person's life when I knew that I deserved to be a priority in their life? And then you ask yourself, what beliefs kept me in a place where I ignored my own needs in exchange for the comfort of somebody else's? And that pain kind of forces you to confront something that the comfort allowed you to avoid. That truth in this example is that you weren't fully choosing yourself ever, but comfort kind of allowed you that whole time to remain in denial and tell yourself that you were choosing yourself. But pain rips off the illusion and forces you to face what's actually real. It's through that confrontation that real growth happens. Without the pain, you might have stayed in that relationship far longer than you would have when the painful experience happened, because you would have continued convincing yourself it was good enough. The heartbreak, although it's like kind of brutal sometimes, becomes a wake-up call for you, a push towards your self-worth, towards setting better boundaries, for maintaining better boundaries, for communicating better, for understanding yourself and your needs and your morals and your values better. And ultimately, that's going to bring in a relationship and a life that aligns with who you truly are rather than who you were pretending to be. So that's just one example of how pain can truly really help you skyrocket your growth in certain ways that comfort never can. And I want to talk about this in the concept, in the context, there it is, that's the word that I was looking for, in the context of hitting rock bottom as well, because when we're at rock bottom, it's a really shitty place to be. And when you're at rock bottom, chances are you've been pushing yourself too hard to be someone that you were never meant to be in the first place. So what rock bottom does is it forces you to take a look at every single part of you and your life so you can get rid of what is not actually working and make room for what will work. The thing is, when you hit rock bottom, you actually have a choice here. You can either stay in all the muck and the grime, you can wallow in your self-pity, or you can find a way to swim. You can find a way to get out of it. And which of those options actually sounds better to you? What if, and stay with me here, what if rock bottom just means that you are being given a place to release all of those heavy rocks that have been dragging you down to the bottom in the first place? What if being at rock bottom is actually your catalyst for change? Because it is forcing you, as I said, to face yourself and the problems that brought you there in the first place in exchange for something easier and lighter to carry. Because being at rock bottom is almost always the last step preceding a massive breakthrough, because it's forcing you to look within. It's forcing you to evaluate where you've been and look towards where you actually want to go and who you're currently being in this moment. I'm going to say this now, just so that it's very clear to all of you. You were never meant to stay at rock bottom. You can leave that ish for the catfishes and for those slimy little worm things that eat the whale carcasses. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look them up. They're the ones that are at rock bottom, right? They serve a really good purpose in the ocean, but you were not meant to stay there, baby, because for you, rock bottom is just a reset. So my rock bottom, I'll tell you a little story here, is if you've listened to my previous podcast episodes, I've talked about this really horrible breakup that I went through. And there was a lot behind that. As I've unpacked it even further, there was a lot there that led this to being a really devastating breakup for me. I can't speak to what his experience was with that, but for me it was really devastating. With this breakup, it wasn't just the breakup that was going wrong. For me, the rock bottom was like every fucking thing was going wrong. So I went through this breakup. I got laid off of my job. I got a job as a waiter, but while my coworkers were kind, some of them weren't very nice to me. The people that came to this bar were not very nice a lot of the time. Some of them were, obviously. My car got broken into. My garage door was broken, which at that point, I did not have enough money. I was struggling with money, so that was really devastating to have to pay for this garage door. Just kind of like everything. And I mean, in addition to that, I think because I was kind of depressed and I wasn't taking care of myself and I kind of like took on that woe is me mentality, I stopped exercising like I used to, so my mental health went down the drain. My body was not something that I felt comfortable in anymore because, as I said, I wasn't eating as healthy, wasn't sleeping as well, and wasn't exercising. So all of these things combined just led me to my rock bottom. And all of this was actually pointing towards a lesson for me. That lesson, really through my whole life, actually, it's been this same lesson that I've had to learn over and over and over again, was in choosing and loving myself. And it's not even, I mean, I think it's a little bit deeper than that too, is that it's not even in choosing myself, but it's also in defending myself and standing up for myself, which is kind of taking that a step further. And I love my parents really dearly. I adore my whole family, but in my childhood, we were kind of taught, either consciously or subconsciously, that it was better to stay silent and not to talk about the things that were going on. And that translates into other pieces of my life as I'm growing up, I was kind of taught to put my needs to the side. I say all this, it might be different for my siblings. I have a brother and a sister. It might be different for them. In fact, I think it was a little bit different for them, but if they do have their own take on it, they can go start their own podcast and talk about it there. This is what my experience was. So for me, growing up, it became harder and harder to actually stand up for myself and for me to say no and for me to let my voice be heard, because it's kind of like a snowball effect. Like all of it kind of piles onto each other and it just gets a lot harder. And so when it comes to this relationship that I'm referencing now, this relationship, I truly think, was brought into my life, and this like horrible breakup was here to teach me exactly that. It taught me to defend myself, to choose myself, to stand up for myself, to honor myself, and to speak my truth, even though it's uncomfortable, and even when I know that people are going to disagree with me. Because nobody was going to do that for me until I could do it for myself. As cliche as it might sound, the universe keeps handing you the same lesson on repeat until you learn that lesson. And boy, did I fail that class. I failed that class with this lesson more than a few times. But each time I did, I got a little better at understanding this lesson. And I understood it a little bit more and what the universe was actually trying to teach me. And it's funny because looking back, it wasn't even just like romantic relationships that was teaching me this. It's pretty much every situation that I had been in that was teaching me this lesson. So in middle school, I was bullied, I would say quite frequently. So I'm going to talk about some of this here. Maybe it'll trigger some of you, I don't know. But there was this one time where on the bus route, there was this boy that I would sit next to, and he was dating one of my friends, and I did have like a little bit of a crush on him myself, but like that was nothing that I was ever going to like do. I felt like really self-conscious and really awkward in middle school anyways. Middle school Carly like never would have even tried. This girl was like a really good friend, so there was like no way that I was ever going to like make a move on her man. But we were friends still, and so we would sit next to each other on the bus because our stops were like relatively close to each other. And I remember one day I went to school, everything was fine. Next day I get to school and I was trying to talk to my girlfriends and nobody would talk to me. Everybody was ignoring me. Even when I came up to their faces to talk to them, they would just stare at me with these blank expressions and walk away without saying anything. And it was horrible. Like by the end of the day, it was like so hard for me not to just sit in the back of the class and cry. Like it took everything in me not to cry. And I remember one of the girls that I was friends with, she actually took the time. It was like a secret. Like she didn't even want anybody to know that she told me this, but she was like, we're all mad at you because you were flirting with that boy on the bus. And I was like, well, I wasn't flirting with him. One, we're friends, but like, it was just crazy. It was really mean. And I forget how that resolved. Like I ended up being like friends with them somehow again, even though truly like I did not have anything that I should have been punished like that for. And then another example of this in middle school is that there's this one girl who was having a Halloween party, and she invited everybody to this Halloween party except for me. And then obviously I was like clearly upset that I was the only one in my friend group that was not invited to this Halloween party. She ended up inviting me. I was really excited that I actually got to go. So my mom took me and my sister out to go get costumes. We were dressed as like go-go dancers. It's literally a costume that I would wear today, right? It was actually a really cute costume, but I get to this Halloween party and they had made like awards for everybody for their Halloween costumes. And all the awards were like really nice, like funniest, like most creative, best costume, stuff like that. And then the only bad award that they created was the stupidest costume, and they gave that award to me. And I didn't want to go up to get the award because it obviously was not an award. It was just another example of them bullying me. But then these girls made me go up to get this award in front of everybody that was there at the party and like accept this award for stupidest costume. And it was like really painful. And it was a costume that I really thought was cute. And I stayed at the Halloween party after that. I did not call my mom to go home, which I should have called my mom to go home. I honestly probably like maybe shouldn't have even gone to the Halloween party in the first place, because I clearly, it was a place that I was not wanted to begin with. And it was kind of like a pity invite. invite, but I was in middle school. I just wanted to be liked so much. And I put that desire to be liked and to be accepted ahead of everything else. So all of this is pointing to the fact that I should have gone home and I should have stood up for myself. I should have chosen myself in that moment. And this relationship that I talked about too, it was kind of like so clearly written this whole time that I was not choosing myself in this relationship. It did go on for quite a long time, the back and forth. There was a point that I should have just been able to reflect inward and been like, this is not what I want for myself. This is not what I want out of a romantic relationship. I want an equal give and take. I want somebody who is going to choose me fully. And this person, I very much care about him still. And I have no doubt that he very much cared about me. I think there is just like our personal issues that were getting in the way of that relationship working. But that's kind of the lesson, right? That sometimes there are things getting in the way and you have to choose yourself. That is the lesson that I have been shown over and over and over and over and over again. And it took me, I'm 29, it's taken me 29 years to really start to grasp this lesson for myself. I know that these were a lot of stories, but this is all pointing back to the fact that these really big, painful moments for me were all teaching me something deeper and leading me to a path that is so much better for me. So through these painful relationships, I've learned to choose me. I've learned to speak up for myself. I've learned to care about how people are making me feel, not just about how I'm making them feel. And I've learned that I am a priority and I should be treated with care and respect from the people that are in my life. And if you're in that same kind of situation, like maybe that's a lesson for you too, that you deserve to be treated well by the people that are in your life. And if people are not treating you well, it deserves a conversation. You should point it out to them. And if they're dedicated to not changing and they continue to treat you in a way that is not okay with you, then it is okay to walk away. It's okay to walk away with love and to distance yourself from situations sometimes. That's what the pain is always teaching, right? It's always teaching you something greater that you need to look at within yourself. I actually just read this book. It's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And in this book, she talks about how everyone has a little treasure buried deep inside of them. It's like a gift that they're exceptionally good at. She's talking in the realm of creativity, but I think it's really just like anything. It's like your special little something, right? It's your special little spark that you bring into situations, that you bring into the room, that you bring in and touch to the people in your life with. And in my opinion, I think our pain sometimes helps us to, one, uncover what that treasure is, but two, also helps us to find ways to protect that treasure from people who are going to mishandle or misuse it. And for me, I truly believe that my heart and my empathy are my treasure. They're my superpower and my strength, like not to toot my own horn, but toot toot. But I was put on this world to be a sensitive person and to love and to wear my heart on my sleeve and to risk it all. And that's like kind of hard in the world these days, right? Because I feel like everybody is so guarded. We're taught to be guarded. We're taught not to let our walls down. Sometimes we're taught not to be vulnerable at all. We are taught to put ourselves above everything else. We are taught just to be these very kind of like isolated people, and we're taught to just kind of like move on to the next thing. And that's just kind of, that's like a death cycle, right? So I truly think that I was put on this world to show other people that they can be this vulnerable, empathetic person and wear their heart on their sleeve and still have strong boundaries and still be this person that's very dedicated to their growth. You can do both. So for me, with all of these stories that I just shared with you, all that love and that care that I was giving to everybody else, I needed to give that love and that care to myself too. I needed to stand up for my boundaries. Some might say that I even needed self-preservation. Point is, I needed to learn how to choose myself and to stand up for myself so I could do the same for other people too. Because if you're sitting there battered and bruised and just beaten to the ground, there is no way that you'll be able to defend or protect anybody else that you love either. So it is your job first and foremost to come in, show up for yourself, fill up your cup, and then overflow into everybody else's. That's kind of like how pain works. That's kind of how life works. So if you need to learn about humility, you are going to be put into these situations where you're at the very top, you feel great, you feel amazing, just so that you can fall. If you need to learn about patience, you're going to be put in these situations that try the fuck out of you until you are on your very last nerve. And if you need to learn about forgiveness, you are going to be put into situations that are hard to forgive. So all of that said, yes, pain does serve a purpose, but as I mentioned at the beginning, just because we know it serves a purpose doesn't necessarily mean when we're in the moment of it that helps us get through it. So what's really important is to heal the pain that you're feeling so that you can go through that transformation. With your healing process, it's not about stuffing down that pain and keeping it for another time, because I think people rely on that saying too much, that time heals all wounds. That's just not true. I think that's very evident in a lot of people and a lot of stories that we see. Time itself does not heal your wounds. Your work to heal the wounds is what actually heals the wounds, right? And of course, you need time in order for that to happen, but it's your work that does the actual healing. So I'm going to use an example of breaking your arm. Let's say you're on the playground, you jump off the swing, you land wrong, you break your arm. You can sit there with your arm all twisted. I'm imagining it like hanging like halfway down your arm, like a really severe break. I've never broken a bone, but I imagine it's like extremely painful, especially when it's a severe fracture like that. So when this happens, when you break your arm, it's broken in half in the middle of your forearm, you can say to yourself, okay, well, I'm just going to give it time. It's going to heal on its own. Like, no, there's other steps that you need to take in order for it to heal properly. You need to get it set back into place. You need a way to keep it set into place, or else it's going to move and keep re-injuring itself. And maybe eventually you figure it out. Maybe you don't get it set into place, whatever. It is not going to heal correctly, and your arm is not going to be usable in the way that it was before. So which one are you going to rather do? Are you going to rather go through the painful experience of setting your arm now, or are you just going to let it heal and twist so you're never able to use your arm correctly again, and probably be more painful in the future because it is not in the place that it should be? That's what healing is like. You actually have to take those steps to heal the pain that you are feeling. Our emotional wounds behave much like our physical wounds do. So your healing process can look different. It looks different for everybody, right? So for me, I really like EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. That's tapping, if you've ever heard of that. I really like IFS, which is internal family systems. I journal, I meditate. To be honest, my meditation practice is, I'm kind of like up and down with it depending on where I'm at. But this overall mindset work does wonders for your healing process, because what all of these different modalities do, they force you to look at the story that you're telling yourself about this pain, and one, embrace the pain that you're feeling. That's an important part of the process. And two, instead of running from the pain, you're actually facing it. So you're able to go in, you're able to change the story, and you're able to see it from a third perspective. So you're able to integrate the lesson while releasing the pain. And this takes time sometimes, right? Like, obviously for me, these lessons took 29 years. So maybe it'll take you that long. Maybe it'll take you 9 days. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're taking the steps to confront that pain so that those wounds can actually heal. And in the end, like, our pain can actually be a really powerful teacher for other people. So if you do think about a breakup, for example, maybe you're going through a really bad breakup, but then 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, even like a couple years down the road, your best friend goes through this devastating breakup. Maybe they end an engagement. You have now the experience and the capacity to empathize with that person because you've experienced that deep kind of pain yourself. And maybe you can even help guide them through it a little bit. So it's a really powerful teacher, not just for you, but it can come in handy for helping the other people around you, because truly humans, we are communal human beings. Like, I know that we've been kind of taught, at least in our modern society, that it's really great to be independent and to be able to do everything on your own, but we truly were not built in that way. Like, we were meant to live in these little tribes and to have support from other people almost all the time. Like, I think about raising a baby and how it takes a village to raise a baby. That's truly what it was meant to be like. Like, there was meant to be a bunch of people helping with the baby, helping with the house, helping with the everything, right? Helping to put food on the table and to provide and gather. And so when you're able to use your pain to help the collective, that is helping everybody else be better around you too. So to end the episode, I actually want to leave you with some affirmations that you can repeat to yourself if you are going through a painful time. And honestly, just like say these to yourself on a normal day too. I use the Think Up app. I use the paid version where on the paid version for sure, you can record your own affirmations. I think you can on the unpaid version. I'm not exactly sure. For me, it's worth the investment. Obviously, I don't know everybody's financial situations out there, but in the Think Up app, you're able to record your own affirmations in your own voice. So your subconscious plays them and accepts them as truth a lot easier. So what I do with the Think Up app, I have a set of affirmations. I have them all like in different categories so I can choose which category I want to listen to. But then I listen to them, I put them on, and I play them through the night. You can put a timer on. So if you only want to listen to them while you're falling asleep, that's cool too. I just listen to it through the night and then it automatically turns off when my alarm goes off. So that's what I do. But have these affirmations, even if you don't want to get the Think Up app, like put it on a Post-it note and keep them at your work desk or put them on your bathroom mirror. I'm a big Post-it note bathroom mirror type of girl. I get that from my mom. Just put them somewhere where you're going to see them quite frequently, because even if you're not like necessarily reading them, like when they're at the corner of your computer screen, your subconscious is still taking it in, even if you're not consciously reading the words that are written there. So these affirmations for helping you to change your mindset around pain. 1, what once broke me is now building me. 2, every wound I've carried has carved space for deeper wisdom. 3, the fire that burned me is the same fire that forged me. That's my personal favorite. So that's one I'm going to be putting into my Think Up app. It's not in there yet, but that's my personal favorite. 4, pain is not the end of my story. It's the chapter where I rise. Ooh, actually, that one's a good one too. I forgot about that one. 5, my struggles are the raw materials of my strength. And on that note, actually, for mantra number 5, when you look back on your pain, definitely speaking from personal experience, our painful experiences shape us into who we are today. If you did not go through your painful experiences, you 100% would be a different person than who is showing up today. Even if you're sad or you're depressed or you're struggling, like the person you are today is an amazing person. And everybody struggles, like lean on other people to help you through that struggle. But those pieces of your story are some of the most important pieces, because those are the pieces that made you crack and let those cracks get filled. They just molded you into the beautiful, dynamic person that you are. Because if you never experienced pain, if you never experienced anything besides happy, everything would be pretty blasé, right? Everything would run together. It's those moments that really show us what we're made of and who we're meant to be. So really just like, as much as you can, look at those painful experiences as a blessing and as a way to transform yourself and to transform your situation. So I think that's all that I have for this week, but thanks y'all for tuning in. I have a guest coming on soon. I believe that episode is going to be coming out next week, so that one is going to be really exciting. Stay tuned for that, and I will see you next time. I love you guys. Bye. Mwah.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, then go ahead and subscribe so you get updates with us every week. You can also follow us on Instagram at KRC Coaching. If you're interested in working one-on-one, then go ahead and visit our website, krccoaching.com, to book your first 30-minute session for free. All right, thanks so much, you guys. Love you. Bye.